The security camera captured her final known moments in grainy black and white. 1:02 a.m., September 13th, 2009. Amber Carter walks alone across the empty parking lot of the Roadhouse Bar on Highway 65. The footage shows her glancing over her shoulder once before climbing into her green Chevrolet Cavalier. The headlights flicker on, illuminating a patch of Arkansas darkness, and then she drives away. Forever. I'm on my way. 4 simple words tapped into a text message at 1:07 a.m. The last digital footprint Amber Carter would ever leave behind. But she never arrived. For 13 years, the people of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, lived with an unsolved mystery that tore at the fabric of their community. A young woman vanished without a trace on an ordinary September night. No body, no crime scene, no closure. Just questions that haunted investigators and loved ones alike. What happened in that critical window between 1:07 a.m. and dawn? Who was the last person to see Amber alive? And why did it take over a decade to uncover the truth? Today, we're diving deep into the case that paralyzed a small Arkansas town and the shocking arrest that no one saw coming. Not even the detectives who'd been hunting for answers since 2009. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button if you want more solved cold cases like this one. These stories matter. They represent real victims who deserve justice, and communities forever changed by the ripple effects of a single violent act. Pine Bluff. Arkansas isn't the kind of place that makes national headlines. Nestled along the Arkansas River about 45 miles south of Little Rock, it's a city where generations of families put down roots, where church bells ring on Sundays, and where everyone seems connected by just a few degrees of separation. In 2009, the population hovered around 50,000, large enough to have its share of troubles, but small enough that those troubles rarely stayed private for long. September in Pine Bluff brings a particular kind of southern evening, the suffocating heat of summer, reluctantly giving way to fall, but the humidity lingering like an unwelcome guest. By mid-September, the cotton fields surrounding the city stand ready for harvest, their white bolls stark against the dark soil. The Jefferson County Fair would be just weeks away, and high school football dominated Friday night conversations. Highway 65 cuts through Pine Bluff like an artery, connecting it to the rest of Arkansas. In 2009, this stretch of road was lined with the familiar landmarks of American small city life: fast food chains, gas stations, strip malls, and the occasional local business fighting to survive as Walmart expanded its footprint just outside of town. At night, the highway transforms into a ribbon of headlights and taillights, punctuated by the glow of neon signs. The Roadhouse Bar wasn't Pine Bluff's most upscale establishment, but it wasn't the roughest spot in town either. A single-story cinder block building with a gravel parking lot, its faded wooden sign had been weathered by decades of Arkansas seasons. Inside, the air was perpetually thick with cigarette smoke, despite the statewide smoking ban that had gone into effect just months earlier. Neon beer signs cast a blue-red glow over pool tables, and a small dance floor occupied the back corner near the jukebox that played a steady rotation of country music and southern rock. On weekend nights, the Roadhouse drew a mixed crowd: factory workers from the paper mill, nurses coming off shift at Jefferson Regional Medical Center, college students home for the weekend, and regulars who claimed the same bar stools night after night. The bartenders knew most customers by name and drink order. It was the kind of place where local gossip flowed as freely as the draft beer. That Saturday night, September 12th into the early hours of the 13th, was unremarkable by most accounts. A local cover band had finished their set around midnight. The late summer air hung still and heavy as closing time approached. Security footage would later show about 20 patrons still lingering at 12:45 a.m., including Amber Carter, who sat alone at the bar for her final drink before heading home. The night she disappeared was just another Saturday at the Roadhouse, until it wasn't. I'm curious, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. It's always fascinating to see how these true crime stories reach people across the country and around the world. Whether you're watching from a small town like Pine Bluff or a major city, these cases remind us that mysteries can unfold anywhere, even in places where people swear, Nothing like that happens here. Amber Carter was 26 years old when she disappeared, a fact that somehow feels both too young and deceptively adult. Born and raised in Pine Bluff, she was the middle child of three, sandwiched between an older brother who'd moved to Little Rock and a younger sister still finishing college at the University of Arkansas. Her father, Robert Carter, worked as a shift supervisor at the International Paper Mill for over 30 years. Her mother, Diane, taught third grade at Oakland Heights Elementary School, where Amber herself had once been a student. Former classmates described Amber as the girl next door. Friendly, but not overly outgoing. Smart, but not showy about it. She'd graduated from Pine Bluff High School in 2001, where she'd been a member of the yearbook committee and played clarinet in the marching band. Her senior yearbook quote read, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." After high school, she attended Southeast Arkansas College and earned an associate's degree in business administration. By 2009, Amber had settled into adult life in her hometown. She worked as an administrative assistant at Jefferson Regional Medical Center, a job her coworkers said she performed with quiet efficiency. She rented a small one-bedroom apartment on the west side of town, drove a 2003 green Chevrolet Cavalier she'd bought used but kept meticulously clean, and was saving for a down payment on a house of her own. Those who knew her well described a woman of routine and responsibility. She paid her bills on time. She called her parents every Sunday evening. She volunteered at the local animal shelter twice a month. Her apartment was organized, with color-coded folders for important documents and a calendar on her refrigerator where she penciled in appointments and social plans weeks in advance. Amber wasn't impulsive, her mother would later tell investigators. She wasn't the type to just take off without telling anyone. Her relationship with Jason Miller had been ongoing for about 8 months before her disappearance. They'd met through mutual friends at a New Year's Eve party to Ring in 2009. Jason worked as an electrician for a local contractor and at 29 was thinking about starting his own business. Friends described them as well-matched, both hard-working, neither particularly wild, both seemingly content with life in Pine Bluff when many of their peers had left for bigger cities. The night Amber vanished wasn't supposed to be remarkable. According to her sister, Amber had spent Saturday afternoon shopping at the Pine Bluff Mall, where security cameras captured her buying a birthday gift for her mother. She'd had dinner at home, takeout from her favorite Chinese restaurant, according to the receipt found in her apartment. Around 9:30 p.m., she'd texted Jason to say she was meeting her friend Kayla for drinks at the Roadhouse. This wasn't unusual. Amber and Kayla met for drinks about once a month. But what made this night different was that Kayla canceled at the last minute due to a migraine. Phone records show Kayla texted Amber at 9:47 p.m. "So sorry, killer headache. Rain check for next weekend?" Amber replied, "No worries. Feel better. I might still go for one drink since I'm already dressed." That decision, to go alone rather than stay home, would become the first link in a chain of events that led to her disappearance. Jason told police he'd been at home watching a college football game with friends. He expected Amber to come over afterward, as was their usual Saturday night routine. When she texted, "I'm on my way," at 1:07 a.m., he replied, "See you soon," and thought nothing more of it until an hour passed with no sign of her. What happened in that hour would remain unknown for 13 long years. So, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. I'm always curious to see where our true crime community is tuning in from. The timeline of Amber Carter's disappearance has been reconstructed through security footage, cell phone records, witness statements, and credit card transactions. Each timestamp represents another moment when her life was still proceeding normally, until suddenly, it wasn't. Saturday, September 12, 2009. 2:14 p.m. Security cameras at Pine Bluff Mall capture Amber purchasing a decorative scarf from Dillard's department store, later confirmed to be a birthday gift for her mother. 3:45 p.m. Amber's debit card is used at Wong's Garden Chinese restaurant for a takeout order of sesame chicken and steamed rice. 7:12 p.m. Amber calls her sister for a brief conversation about their mother's upcoming birthday dinner. 8:30 p.m. Approximate. According to her neighbor, Amber is seen checking her mail in the apartment complex. 9:30 p.m., Amber texts Jason about meeting Kayla at the Roadhouse. 9:47 p.m., Kayla cancels due to a migraine. 9:52 p.m., Amber decides to go for one drink anyway. 10:38 p.m., security footage shows Amber's green Chevrolet pulling into the Roadhouse parking lot. 10:40 p.m., Amber enters the bar alone, wearing jeans, a navy blue blouse, and a denim jacket. Her hair is pulled back in a ponytail. 11:15 p.m., bartender Kevin Walsh later confirms serving Amber a vodka cranberry. He recalls her sitting alone, occasionally checking her phone. 11:45 p.m., the band finishes their set. Amber orders a second drink. Sunday, September 13th, 2009, 12:30 a.m. Amber is seen chatting briefly with a woman at the bar, later identified as Sandra Reeves, a nurse who recognized Amber from the hospital. 12:52 a.m. Amber pays her tab with a $20 bill. The receipt shows 2 drinks and a basket of fries. 1:02 a.m. Security footage captures Amber walking to her car alone. She glances over her shoulder once before getting in. 1:07 a.m. Amber sends her final text to Jason. "I'm on my way." 1:08 a.m. Jason replies, "See you soon." 1:15 a.m. approximate. Based on the normal driving time between the Roadhouse and Jason's house, Amber should have arrived around this time. 2:15 a.m. Jason, growing concerned, calls Amber's phone. It rings several times before going to voicemail. 2:30 a.m. Jason calls again. This time the call goes straight to voicemail, suggesting her phone is either turned off or the battery has died. 3:45 a.m. After calling mutual friends with no success, Jason drives the route between his house and the Roadhouse, looking for signs of Amber's car or an accident. He finds nothing. 8:30 a.m. Jason calls Amber's parents, who haven't heard from her. 9:15 a.m. Diane Carter uses her spare key to check Amber's apartment. The bed hasn't been slept in. Her toothbrush is still in the bathroom. Nothing appears to be missing except Amber herself and the clothes she was wearing. 11:23 a.m. Jason files a missing person report with the Pine Bluff Police Department. The 5-mile drive from the Roadhouse to Jason's house should have taken no more than 12 minutes, even at that late hour. Somewhere in that short distance, Amber Carter vanished. Initial concerns were tempered by the common police response to missing adults. She might have changed her mind and gone elsewhere, had an argument with someone, or simply needed space. But those who knew Amber insisted this was completely out of character. She wouldn't just not show up, Jason told the detective who took his statement. And she definitely wouldn't let her family worry like this. By Sunday evening, Amber's disappearance had begun to spread through Pine Bluff social circles. By Monday morning, her co-workers at Jefferson Regional Medical Center realized something was seriously wrong when she failed to appear for her shift or call in, something she had never done in 4 years of employment. The first 48 hours after a disappearance are critical, but they passed with no sign of Amber or her green Chevrolet. No activity on her credit cards, no calls from her phone, no withdrawals from her bank account. It was as if she had driven off the edge of the world after leaving the Roadhouse parking lot. If you've been following this case over the years or remember when it happened, hit that like button now. The support helps this channel continue bringing attention to cold cases that deserve resolution, and it shows Amber's family that people still care about finding the truth all these years later. By Monday afternoon, September 14th, the Pine Bluff Police Department had upgraded Amber Carter's case from a routine missing person report to a high-priority investigation. Detective Marcus Thornton, a 15-year veteran of the force, was assigned as lead investigator, a decision that would shape the course of the case for years to come. "We knew something was wrong," Thornton would later recall in a 2019 interview. A young woman with no history of disappearing, who was expected somewhere, whose car was also missing. These factors immediately raised red flags. The first 48 hours unfolded with methodical urgency. Officers conducted a thorough search of the Roadhouse, reviewing security footage multiple times. They interviewed the bartender, Kevin Walsh, who remembered Amber clearly. She wasn't drunk. Walsh told investigators. 2 drinks over almost 3 hours. She was just sitting there, checking her phone occasionally. Nothing that stood out. The security footage yielded little beyond confirming Amber's departure time and the fact that she appeared to leave alone. The camera's limited range meant it couldn't capture which direction her car turned when leaving the parking lot, a critical blind spot that would haunt investigators. Officers canvassed businesses along Highway 65 in both directions, collecting any available security footage. A gas station half a mile north captured a green sedan passing at approximately 1:06 a.m., consistent with Amber's departure time, but the image quality was too poor to confirm the license plate. The route between the Roadhouse and Jason Miller's house was searched extensively. Officers walked the roadside ditches looking for skid marks, broken glass, or any indication of an accident. Highway patrol records showed no reported incidents that night. Local hospitals confirmed no unidentified patients had been admitted. Amber's phone records became a central focus. Her final text to Jason originated from a cell tower near the Roadhouse. After that, nothing. No calls, no texts, no data usage. The phone company confirmed her device never connected to another tower, suggesting it was either immediately destroyed, powered off, or taken to an area with no service. By Tuesday morning, search teams had expanded to include volunteers from the community. They combed through wooded areas and checked abandoned buildings near the highway. Amber's green Chevrolet became the most sought-after vehicle in Jefferson County, with its description and license plate number broadcast on local radio stations and printed in the Pine Bluff commercial newspaper. At Amber's apartment, forensic technicians found no signs of struggle or forced entry. Her purse wasn't there, consistent with her having taken it to the bar. Her bed was made. A half-empty container of Chinese food sat in the refrigerator. A birthday card for her mother lay on the kitchen counter, signed but not yet sealed in its envelope. It was like she fully expected to come home, Detective Thornton noted in his report. As the investigation intensified, several persons of interest emerged. Jason Miller, Amber's boyfriend, was the first to be thoroughly questioned. His alibi, watching the Arkansas Razorbacks game with friends, was corroborated by 3 witnesses. Cell tower data placed his phone at his residence during the critical hours. His genuine distress and immediate cooperation led investigators to quickly rule him out as a suspect. Kevin Walsh, the bartender, underwent multiple interviews. His statements remained consistent, and security footage confirmed he remained behind the bar during Amber's entire visit and after her departure. No red flags emerged from his background check. Sandra Reeves, the nurse who briefly spoke with Amber, told police their conversation had been casual, mostly about work at the hospital. She left the Roadhouse at 12:40 a.m., before Amber, a fact verified by security footage. A more concerning lead emerged when detectives identified a patron named Derek Lawson, who had left the Roadhouse just minutes after Amber. Lawson had a record, a domestic violence charge from 2007 and a DUI in 2008. Initial attempts to locate him were unsuccessful, raising suspicions until he was found working an offshore oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico. Cell records and witness statements eventually confirmed he had gone directly to his girlfriend's house after leaving the bar. By Wednesday, September 16th, the investigation had yielded more questions than answers. Amber's parents made their first public plea for information at a press conference held on the steps of the Pine Bluff Police Department. The image of Diane Carter clutching her daughter's photograph would become the defining image of the case, appearing on local news and missing person posters throughout Arkansas. "Someone knows something," Robert Carter said, his voice breaking. "Please, if you saw anything that night, anything at all, come forward. We just want our daughter back." The FBI officially joined the investigation on Thursday, September 17th, bringing additional resources and expertise. They established a dedicated tip line that would receive over 200 calls in the first week alone. Most led nowhere. A few would take years to fully investigate. As the search expanded and the media coverage intensified, the residents of Pine Bluff began to look at their community differently. Doors that once remained unlocked were now secured. Parents kept closer watch on their children. the familiar stretch of Highway 65 took on a more sinister character, especially after dark. What time is it where you're watching right now? Drop the time in your comments below. It's fascinating to think about how this case has connected people across different time zones and even different years since it first began unfolding at 1:07 a.m. on that September night in 2009. By December 2009, the daily briefings on Amber Carter's case had become weekly. By March 2010, they were monthly. The investigation hadn't stopped, but the momentum had slowed to a crawl as each promising lead evaporated upon closer inspection. The green Chevrolet Cavalier, perhaps the most crucial piece of physical evidence, remained frustratingly elusive. Despite being entered into the national database and featured on digital highway billboards across Arkansas, not a single confirmed sighting emerged. It was as if both Amber and her car had been erased from existence after leaving the Roadhouse parking lot. A car doesn't just disappear, Detective Thornton repeatedly told his team. It's either hidden somewhere, stripped for parts, or at the bottom of a body of water. This last possibility led to an extensive search of lakes, ponds, and waterways within a 30-mile radius of Pine Bluff. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission provided sonar equipment and divers, but the murky waters and vast search area yielded nothing conclusive. Years later, investigators would acknowledge this as one of several missed opportunities. The search had been thorough but not exhaustive, with some smaller bodies of water deemed too shallow to hide a vehicle receiving only cursory examination. Another critical misstep came to light regarding a potential witness. In January 2010, a truck driver came forward claiming he might have seen a green sedan pulled over with hazard lights on Highway 65 around 1:20 a.m. that Sunday morning. He hadn't stopped, assuming it was just someone with car trouble. When he heard about the case weeks later, he called the tip line, but his information was incorrectly categorized as low priority due to the vague description and time discrepancy. It wasn't until a case review in 2011 that investigators realized the significance of this potential sighting, by which time the truck driver's memory had faded and he couldn't pinpoint the exact location. The digital trail proved equally frustrating. Amber's email accounts showed no unusual activity before or after her disappearance. Her social media profiles, limited to Facebook and MySpace in 2009, revealed nothing suspicious. Her bank accounts remained untouched, her credit cards unused. By the one-year anniversary of her disappearance, the case had officially gone cold. The FBI scaled back their involvement, though they kept the file active. Detective Thornton remained dedicated, but was assigned to other cases as well. The media coverage dwindled from front-page news to occasional, one-year-later updates, then to brief mentions on subsequent anniversaries. But in Pine Bluff, Amber wasn't forgotten. Her parents transformed their grief into action, establishing the Amber Carter Foundation in 2011 to support families of missing persons across Arkansas. They organized annual walks, maintained a website with case information, and kept their daughter's story alive through community outreach. The impact on Pine Bluff itself was subtle but profound. Residents spoke of before Amber disappeared and after Amber disappeared when referencing local events. The Roadhouse Bar saw business decline sharply, whether from the association with the case or from people's newfound caution about late-night outings, and eventually closed in 2013. The building remained vacant, a silent monument to unanswered questions. Jason Miller stayed in Pine Bluff for 2 years after Amber's disappearance, participating in searches and keeping in close contact with her family. In 2011, he moved to Texas, a decision that sparked a brief flurry of renewed suspicion until investigators reaffirmed he had been thoroughly cleared. Throughout the 2010s, the case would occasionally resurface with tantalizing but ultimately disappointing developments. In 2014, a green Cavalier with similar plates was discovered in an Oklahoma impound lot, triggering a flurry of activity until it was confirmed to be a different vehicle. In 2016, a woman in Missouri claimed to have information about Amber's fate, but her story fell apart under questioning. Detective Thornton, who refused to let the case die completely, dedicated one day each month to reviewing the evidence. He maintained a detailed timeline on his office wall, adding notes and connections as they emerged. By 2018, that timeline stretched across an entire wall, a visual representation of both the extensive investigation and its fundamental incompleteness. "Cold doesn't mean closed," became Thornton's mantra. "It just means we haven't found the right piece yet." What do you think happened to Amber Carter that night? Comment your theories below. Sometimes a fresh perspective can shed new light on these cases, and your insight might connect dots in ways investigators haven't considered. The collective wisdom of true crime communities has helped solve cases before. Could yours be the comment that makes a difference? On March 17, 2022, nearly 13 years after Amber Carter vanished, a construction crew breaking ground for a new gas station 3 miles south of Pine Bluff made a discovery that would reignite the dormant investigation. Their excavator struck metal where blueprints showed no underground utilities should exist. What they unearthed wasn't a forgotten pipe or cable. It was the rusted frame of a vehicle buried under 6 feet of dirt and gravel. By nightfall, the Arkansas State Police had cordoned off the area. By morning, forensic teams had confirmed what Detective Marcus Thornton, now a lieutenant nearing retirement, had suspected the moment he received the call. They had found Amber Carter's green Chevrolet Cavalier. The vehicle had been deliberately buried, the earth around it packed and layered in a way that suggested careful concealment rather than natural coverage. The license plate, though corroded, was still legible. The car's interior had been stripped, the seats removed, and any potential evidence seemingly eliminated with methodical precision. But the perpetrator hadn't accounted for modern forensic technology. 13 years ago, we couldn't have gotten much from this, explained Dr. Elaine Winters, the forensic specialist who led the recovery effort. But advancements in DNA extraction and analysis have changed the game for cold cases. Using techniques developed for degraded crime scenes, investigators were able to recover microscopic blood evidence from beneath the dashboard. Blood that had seeped into crevices unreachable by whoever had attempted to sanitize the vehicle. Preliminary DNA testing confirmed it belonged to Amber Carter. More surprising was a second DNA profile recovered from the trunk latch mechanism, a partial sample that didn't match Amber or any individual in the original case file. When run through the expanded National DNA database, it returned a match that stunned investigators. Raymond Tucker, a 52-year-old Pine Bluff resident with no apparent connection to Amber or her social circle. Tucker's name had never appeared in the original investigation. In 2009, he had worked as a maintenance supervisor for Jefferson County, overseeing road repairs and construction projects, including one that had been active near Highway 65 around the time of Amber's disappearance. The construction site where her car was found had been county property until 2015, when it was sold to a private developer and left undeveloped until 2022. The connection was circumstantial but compelling: access to heavy equipment, knowledge of county-owned properties, the ability to move and bury a vehicle without attracting attention. But the DNA evidence provided the crucial link that circumstantial evidence alone couldn't establish. When detectives pulled Tucker's file, another disturbing pattern emerged. In 1997, he had been questioned but never charged in connection with the disappearance of a 22-year-old woman in neighboring Grant County. That case remained unsolved. In 2003, he had been arrested for stalking an ex-girlfriend, but charges were dropped when she refused to testify. His record since then had been clean: traffic violations and a public intoxication charge in 2015, but nothing that would have flagged him as a person of interest in a disappearance case. The most shocking revelation came when investigators obtained Tucker's cell phone records from 2009. Though most providers only maintain detailed records for 5 to 7 years, a subpoena to the archive department of the carrier revealed that Tucker's phone had pinged towers along Highway 65 between 1:15 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. on September 13, 2009, precisely when and where Amber Carter had vanished. Armed with this evidence, detectives placed Tucker under surveillance. For 2 weeks, they monitored his movements, built their case, and prepared for an arrest that needed to be flawless after 13 years of waiting. They watched as he went about his life, now working as a supervisor at a manufacturing plant, living in a modest house on Pine Bluff's north side, and participating in community events with no outward sign of the secrets he carried. On April 5, 2022, as Tucker left his shift at 6:15 p.m., Arkansas State Police officers moved in. The arrest was quick, clean, and captured on body cameras. Tucker's expression, not surprise or outrage but a resigned calm, would later be described by Detective Thornton as the face of a man who'd been waiting 13 years for this moment. The news of the arrest exploded through Pine Bluff like a thunderclap. For a community that had lived with an open wound for over a decade, the development was both shocking and vindicating. But the most disturbing revelations were yet to come. Raymond Tucker's arrest unfolded with the precision of an operation 13 years in the making. After 2 weeks of surveillance, investigators had mapped his routines, identified his associates, and secured search warrants for his residence, vehicle, workplace locker, and electronic devices. Nothing was left to chance. The arrest team included officers who had worked the original case in 2009, including Lieutenant Marcus Thornton, who insisted on being present despite being eligible for retirement. As Tucker exited the manufacturing plant where he worked as a shift supervisor, he was surrounded by unmarked vehicles and plainclothes officers. "Raymond Tucker, you're under arrest for the murder of Amber Carter," Thornton announced, finally speaking the words he had waited years to say. Body camera footage later released to the media showed Tucker offering no resistance. He simply nodded, placed his hands behind his back, and said, "Took you long enough." This chilling response would become a key piece of evidence at his eventual trial. As news of the arrest spread through Pine Bluff, the community reaction was a complex mixture of relief, vindication, and disbelief. Raymond Tucker wasn't an outsider or drifter. He was a longtime resident who had coached Little League baseball, attended the First Baptist Church, and served on the county fair committee. His arrest challenged the community's perception of who could be capable of such a crime. "I've known Ray for 20 years, said Michael Donovan, a fellow church member interviewed by local news. "We had him over for barbecues. My kids called him Uncle Ray. I just can't wrap my head around this." The search of Tucker's home revealed a man living an outwardly ordinary life. There were no obvious trophies from Amber or other potential victims, no journals detailing dark fantasies, none of the stereotypical signs of a predator that the public had been conditioned to expect. This normalcy made the case all the more disturbing. However, a search of his garage workshop uncovered a hidden compartment containing newspaper clippings about Amber's disappearance, carefully preserved in plastic sleeves. More damning was a flash drive containing photos of the Roadhouse Bar taken from various angles and distances, surveillance photos that predated Amber's disappearance by several weeks. As investigators dug into Tucker's background, a clearer picture emerged. Born and raised in Jefferson County, he had a troubled childhood marked by an alcoholic father and frequent moves. School records showed average performance but noted difficulty with rejection and problems with female authority figures. After high school, he joined the Army but received a general discharge after 2 years for unspecified conduct issues. His work history showed a pattern of competence followed by abrupt departures, often after conflicts with female coworkers. His marriage in 1999 ended in divorce after just 3 years, with his ex-wife later telling investigators he had been controlling and prone to jealous outbursts. The potential motive began to take shape during interrogation. Tucker initially maintained his innocence, but when confronted with the DNA evidence, his story shifted. He claimed he had merely found Amber's car abandoned on Highway 65 and decided to take it, then panicked and buried it when he heard about the missing person case. This explanation fell apart when detectives revealed they had recovered deleted emails showing Tucker had applied for a job at Jefferson Regional Medical Center in August 2009, where Amber worked, and had been rejected after his interview with the female HR director. Security footage from the hospital showed him in the lobby on multiple occasions in the weeks before Amber's disappearance, including one instance where Amber walked past him. The rejection, investigators theorized, had triggered a fixation that ultimately led to murder. What's the weather like where you are today? Drop a comment below letting us know. as we continue this dark journey through a case that spanned 13 years. It's grounding to connect with our community around the world experiencing different conditions while sharing in this story together. Raymond Tucker's trial began on February 6, 2023, in the Jefferson County Courthouse. The proceedings drew national media attention, with court TV broadcasting live and true crime podcasters filling the public gallery. For 3 weeks, Pine Bluff became the epicenter of a story 13 years in the making. Prosecutors built their case methodically. The DNA evidence from the buried Chevrolet formed the foundation, but it was the digital trail that proved most damning. Forensic analysis of Tucker's old computer, recovered from his ex-wife's storage unit, revealed deleted searches about Amber, the Roadhouse Bar, and disturbingly, how deep to bury evidence. The prosecution theory was straightforward. Tucker, rejected for employment at the hospital where Amber worked, had developed an obsession. He had stalked her for weeks, learning her routines. On September 13, 2009, he followed her from the Roadhouse, possibly posing as someone offering help when she pulled over, explaining the hazard lights the truck driver had reported seeing. What happened next was left to the jury's imagination, but the blood evidence in the car spoke to violence. Tucker's defense attempted to create reasonable doubt by highlighting the lack of a body and the years that had passed. Memories fade, evidence degrades, assumptions fill the gaps, his attorney argued. They suggested Tucker might have found the car after Amber had already met with foul play at someone else's hands. The jury deliberated for just 7 hours before returning their verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. On March 1, 2023, Judge Patricia Wilson sentenced Raymond Tucker to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the Carter family, the verdict brought a measure of the closure they had sought for 13 years. At a press conference on the courthouse steps, Robert Carter spoke with quiet dignity. Today doesn't bring Amber back to us, but it does mean that the man who took her can never hurt another family the way he hurt ours. Diane Carter, who had maintained the Amber Carter Foundation throughout the years, announced that the organization would continue its work supporting families of missing persons. This was never just about Amber, she said. It's about every person who vanishes, and every family left behind with questions. For the Pine Bluff community, the resolution of the case marked the end of an era. The uncertainty that had hung over the city for more than a decade had finally lifted, though it left behind uncomfortable questions about how well we truly know our neighbors. Yet significant questions remained unanswered. Despite extensive searches of properties connected to Tucker, Amber's remains were never found. He maintained his silence on this crucial detail, denying her family the chance for a proper burial. Investigators continued to probe his past, examining cold cases in Arkansas and neighboring states for potential connections, wondering if Amber had been his only victim. Perhaps most troubling was the randomness of the breakthrough that solved the case. Had construction not begun at that precise location? Had the excavator struck the ground a few feet in another direction? Had the vehicle remained buried? Would justice ever have been served? The case of Amber Carter serves as both a warning and a promise, that secrets buried in darkness may eventually be exposed to light, that justice delayed need not be justice denied, and that a community's memory can be longer and more persistent than a killer ever anticipated. The story of Amber Carter's disappearance and the 13-year journey to justice represents more than just another solved cold case. It stands as a testament to persistence in the face of dwindling hope, to the advances in forensic science that give voice to the silenced, and to a community that refused to forget one of their own. In the years since Raymond Tucker's conviction, the Amber Carter Foundation has helped fund DNA testing for 23 cold cases across the South, resulting in 4 additional arrests and bringing closure to families who had waited decades for answers. The Foundation's scholarship program now supports students pursuing careers in forensic science and victim advocacy. Detective Marcus Thornton, who postponed his retirement until the case was solved, now travels the country training law enforcement on cold case methodology. The Thornton Protocol for Evidence Preservation has been adopted by police departments in 12 states. Perhaps most importantly, Amber's story reminds us that behind every cold case statistic is a human being, someone with dreams, relationships, and a future that was violently stolen. The 13 years between crime and conviction represent thousands of days her family lived in limbo, searching for answers that seemed forever out of reach. If this story moved you, please share this video to spread awareness about the thousands of cold cases still waiting for resolution. Your share might reach someone with information about another unsolved case, or inspire a future investigator who will bring closure to a family still waiting for answers. No victim deserves to be forgotten. No case deserves to stay cold forever.